graphic design has become sexy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's for sure.
We talked about it not being sexy 20 years ago, but like it's become a thing to where people can achieve a certain degree of, and I hate thinking along this line, but a certain degree of celebrity.
You're listening to the Angry Designer Podcast, where we help frustrated graphic designers crush the industry bull and learn what it takes to charge what you're worth and build badass, rewarding careers. In this episode, we're diving deep into the world of design conferences with Matt Dawson, the founder of CropCon. You're going to learn all about how to create a conference that feels like home for designers, the balance between running a full-time job, having a design business, running events, and having a family, and Matt's perspective on the future of design and the importance of creativity in it all. So sit back and get comfortable, whether you're chilling with a drink or whether you're navigating a wilderness path or diving into your work. You're not going to want to miss a minute of this episode. What's up, angry designers? So question for you. Where do designers go to hang out with other designers, learn about design, talk to famous people, or just bigger groups of like-kind people? I think as a designer myself, I like to go to events and check this out. And we have somebody here who has an awesome event down in Texas every year. We have our guest, Mr. Matt Dawson from CropCon. What's up, my friend?
Oh, what's up? Thanks so much for having me.
I'm glad we were able to do this just because, again, every time I meet you, so twice now, and it's always been at conferences, and we always start getting into these conversations, and I'm like, he's such a cool cat, you know what I mean? I think we could have like 3 or 4 of these conversations, not just this one.
That's because you've only met me twice. Like that level goes down the more you hang out with me. Trust me.
So let's just, for anybody who's been living under a rock and doesn't know who you are, you have a design firm called StayGray Ponyboy. Is that legit?
That is correct. You got all the syllables.
And then you also run a design conference, one of the longest running ones, CropCon, every year. You have a lot of time in your plate, so I'm just curious what else you do on this side. Because, wow, dude, like, what are you a glutton for punishment or what?
Yeah, I do kind of bill myself as a glutton for punishment, or I don't know, addicted to stress, or I don't know what it is. But yeah, so like I actually have a full-time job as well, and then all of that other stuff is kind of done on the side. So I did run my own thing for about 6 years, and that was amazing. But it also probably took 6 years off of my life.
Let's start actually. So where did this journey start you?
Which one?
Well, let's just say, were you always a creative person, and did you know that you were? I know the answer to that one, but did you always know this is what you were going to do, and where did this all start for you?
I do think I've always been a creative person, or at least I think so. I don't know. Like, of course, I drew pictures and shit whenever I was a kid, but like, what kid doesn't? You know, it's like I don't know if I can really like lean into like the romantic aspect of it. All I did was draw as a kid. You know, like all kids draw, but I did do a lot of that. You know, like I did gravitate towards like more creative toys and endeavors. I never really thought, you know, like even like going up through like high school, like I never thought that I would take that path, you know? Yeah, graphic designer wasn't as sexy as it is now, like 20 something years ago.
You're right.
And like I don't even know if I knew the term, to be honest with you. And like I ended up going to school for something entirely different. Like once I got to college. And then after I had spent 4 years in college almost getting a degree for another major, then I heard, you know, the term graphic design. And, you know, it's like, oh, let's do another 4 years of college. And so no, long story short, I didn't know that this is what I wanted to do. I'm very glad that, you know, I found out at the time. And
what was the other course that you were taking?
Landscape architecture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, creative, yes, in a different sort of way, but that to graphic design, how did that transition look like?
Just poor performance in my latter year of studies for that particular major. So it was a 5-year major. The school that I went to had a really like a really fantastic landscape architecture program, and I had gotten into my 4th year out of 5.
Yes.
And like all the fun stuff was done. You start a creative major, and you've got design theory classes and color theory and design history, and like all that stuff's fun. And then you get into it and you're like, oh wait, there's a lot of math involved here, and I've got to account for the grading of this hill, and or else like this design is going to sink into the earth, or like something catastrophic. And that was a little too much stress. Like there's not as much stress with logos. And
You're not dealing with the right customers, apparently.
Well, I might want to run that back. But yeah, I found myself kind of gravitating towards like the urban planning aspect of landscape architecture and design in that way. And I think what I liked about it was, like wayfinding and, not the important parts of the design. Like I was like focused on like these things that were really like design adjacent. And luckily I had a teacher or professor or whatever you call it that could kind of tell, cool. She was like, hey, like, I don't really think you're feeling this. Are you? And I was like, actually, I'm not. And like, I'm like a weird person that like, I don't like confrontation. I don't like conflict. I honestly probably would have finished out, like I think if it wasn't for that conversation.
Wow.
So I do credit like that honesty and, like that professor's kind of, like instinct to be like, hey, like this guy is not feeling this. She had actually double majored in landscape architecture and design. And she was like, I think you've got really, I think you've got potential to lean into graphic design. It seems like what you're liking about this. And it was just like, like a light bulb going off for me. And I switched majors that week. And yeah, haven't looked back.
See, it is possible to have good teachers out there, because I had one that did make a difference when I was in high school.
Yes.
It just kind of fell apart when I went to college, and they were a mess at that point. So but there are some inspirational ones.
Yeah.
So then after you went to graphic design, and again, you said 5-year major?
Yeah, the original landscape architecture program was a 5-year major. I got into my 4th year and pieced out, and then just started over, another 4 years. I was really lucky though, like the way that I switched those beginning classes that we talked about a minute ago, all that core stuff that you do at the beginning of college, that all translated over. So I had a ton of credits, and honestly, all I had to do was just take my design studio classes. So like other granted, like I ended up becoming the de facto old guy in the class, because I was 4 years older than everyone else.
And he was
I
like 23 years old at that time.
Yeah, I had like a beard down to here, and I think my hair is like past my shoulders. Like I looked like a real winner. And yeah, like I was lucky in that like I just had my design studio classes. Other people were still juggling like their electives and like trigonometry and biology, like all the other stuff you have to do. And I had like 6 hours per semester max, maybe that I was taking. So I really got to lean into design and tried to immerse myself and absorb as much as I could pre-Pinterest, pre-Dribble, pre-Instagram, pre all these things that we find inspiration and resources for now. Like I've still got DVDs.
Do you remember the size of the magazine racks back in the day when there would be like 20 different graphic design magazines? There was print magazine. There was all the skateboard and all the snowboarding magazines. I mean, well, maybe not snowboarding in Texas, but I just remember the pre-Pinterest, pre-online inspiration, hitting up the Indigo and the chapters and just kind of spending hours in front of every month, in front of, everything new that was print to go through to pick up design inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. Spending time at like a Barnes and Noble and being in their magazine section and thumbing through like a communication arts annual or like there's I don't know if it's still around.
Annuals.
Yeah. But yeah, like print magazine, CMYK, like those were like the source of, like And I mean, $30 or $40 for a design annual, whenever you're a college kid, like that's expensive, you know, like that's
why I still own mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never got rid of them.
So, you know, like I would just spend like so much time either, you know, like at bookstores or, you know, whatnot, looking at that stuff. And yeah, it was an interesting way to.
I kind of feel like designers now don't like, they're spoiled in the sense of it's all at your fingertips, right? And not in a bad way. It's a hell of a lot more efficient, but there is something missing about that whole seek and discover process that we had to do, you know, like 20 years ago, right? I still remember before stock photography going out, you know, for a full day with my camera and taking pictures of grass and of sidewalk and asphalt and, you know, textures, car tie. Like I just remember creating my own stock photography because it just wasn't accessible. Yeah. So it's, you know, and we talk about the romantic side of business. I miss those days because it was, I kind of feel like that was some of the best times in this space.
Totally.
I do too. You know, because like I think there wasn't as quick of a connect from the process to what you were seeing on those pages. Now we just see everybody's end result, and we can see the process, but we've just gotten so fast and almost so overstimulated that I feel like. And like I'm guilty of it too, even, you know, like 15 years in or so, that, you know, like you know, there's some projects that like I just want to take the quickest route to being done with, but that doesn't always produce the best results. So like I feel like whenever we are overstimulated with, oh, I want to do something like this, I want to do something like this agency or this studio, we emulate rather than actually work out a process and discover. And
that's brilliant.
You're
right.
It's a weird, it's a double-edged sword because like it's great to have these resources, but at the same time, a lot of design becomes homogenized and just so much shit looks the same now. And like I miss seeing things that like made me pick my jaw up off the floor. You know, like this is incredible. This person's work is phenomenal. You know, like now it's just how fast can we scroll through all of the things.
Dude.
And
I can't remember the last time I was awed at a new design. You know what? I come to think of it, like exactly to our point. I think, you know, we still have people out there who are passionate about what they do, and we do it because we love the thrill of the process, the design. But because this is still a competitive market, and you have other people that you know damn right, they're just going, there's no process. They're just going straight to an end result. Maybe not a great one, but it's good enough for whatever they're doing. And I think everybody's trying to keep up. So you're right. There's this whole fear that a lot of the best part of what we do is starting to get watered down. It's homogenized. Oh, that's heartbreaking, dude. Now I'm depressed.
So it's gonna be the sad designer podcast.
Sad designer today.
No, but like you know, and I don't mean to soapbox about it, like, but I do think it's something that it's important to be aware of. Like I have to be aware of it in my own work, especially, you know, like work that I'm giving to clients. I don't want to give them something that looks exactly like 30 other designers' accounts on Instagram or TikTok or wherever the hell, because like that's not doing that client any favors. You know, like we have the ability as designers to just create magic out of thin air. You know, like we're lucky in that like we exist in a creative field. It'd be great to flex that muscle a little bit more, you know. And like I get it. Like I see other people that do things, and I'm like, I want to try that style, you know, like same thing like wanting to learn a cool guitar part or something, you know, like. But do you want to be like a cover band designer, or do you want to be, you know, an original, you know, idea designer? So it's kind of like a weird balance, you know, to
what do you feel that does to the stress of it all for a designer? Like how much extra do you think, like number one, do you think designers are all as aware and tuned to this as we're just talking about, and what it does to their whole stress factor?
As a person who is highly stressed, my opinion is probably pretty subjective, but like I can only imagine that younger designers probably do feel a lot of stress, you know, especially like whenever they're starting out or they're not getting the kind of projects that they're seeing their contemporaries get, like maybe not their peers, because these people are at different levels. So yeah, I mean, like I can't imagine what it's like to be a young designer in this ecosystem and see like these massive waves of success for people, or sometimes what's just perceived as success. Because like I don't show all the shit that I do just for a paycheck. Like that stuff stays in Dropbox, and like you only show the flashy stuff. So yeah, I would imagine that puts quite a bit of stress on younger designers. Yeah.
So speaking about the flashy stuff, or the stuff that we keep in our Dropbox, you've worked with some pretty big brands over the years. And obviously you still are, as well as your own gigs. So like, how did you get to that level right now? And I mean, now you're still working with brands, I'm assuming, plus your own gig. Like, what was that big jump for you?
For me, it was really drilling down into a niche. Like after I was done with school, like I kind of bounced around to different jobs, and more so like as like a journey to figure out what I didn't like, because like nothing really prepared me. Like, like we didn't have like super clear-cut paths for like our design curriculum. It was just more like an umbrella. This is what all you can do with this. But like once we, got that little piece of paper that's been in a closet forever and haven't seen, like you're just out on your own, and like you graduated, and great. So it took me a few years and a few different jobs to figure out that like I really wanted to move towards and really focus on like brand and identity. And I think for me, like finally clearing that fog and figuring out exactly what I wanted to do just really helped me laser focus in that area. And at the time, I was just creating as much as I could and posting and doing things for free for people and trying to build up stuff to show other clients. And for me, it was like more of a snowball effect. I started getting clients from word of mouth. I started getting a little bit of traction. I've been on Instagram for a long time. I don't have near the amount of followers that some of the other people do. But, I started getting, some eyes on things, and like that led to projects with bigger brands and bands. And, it's really just a testament to keeping at it, I guess.
Yes.
And, like it wasn't a short process by any means. That's not to say that like it can't happen. Like there are people, it's lightning in a bottle, and, next thing you know, like they're working with big ass brands. But for me, it was keeping at it.
Agreed. You know what? I think to me, when people ask me what is the most important trait a graphic designer can have to make it in the industry, I always say the same thing. It's perseverance, because those overnight success stories are far and few. And,
Yes.
I attest all the success, everything, not over, being a great designer, because unfortunately for me, that took 15, 17, 20 years to get to that point before I was working with $1 billion brands. But I wasn't going to let anybody else outwork me. So there might've been more talented, but man, I had hustle. So I think people underestimate the importance of perseverance and, paying your dues. And for some people, it comes after a few years. Others, it takes 15, 20, but still, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
At what point then did you decide, while you're working with all these big brands, while you've got your own side gig going, where did this idea about I need to now start a conference?
I think it was really just to talk, to kind of go back to not having the same resources that we do now, because like Crop's been around for 10 events at this point. And I think 10 events ago, it was just, for me, it was like a lack of available resources for creatives. And, maybe it was a little, short-sighted on my part, but like, I didn't know that other stuff like this kind of existed. And like, they definitely weren't as ubiquitous as they are now. Like there's a design conference every other fucking month now, which is fine. Like, I think that's great. Like the more the merrier, to an extent. But, I think for me, it was like, I've learned so much in these years from like graduating to now. I did it all on my own. My wife was going to events, and, she was learning as far as like, like her career. And I was like, well, let's do something like this with design and creativity. And again, other stuff like that existed, but I didn't know that. I didn't do my homework. Was never much for homework. And I just started ideating, I was like, how can we how can we provide value and resources and like a place where people can come and just like learn from people? Because like that was also right at the kind of like right at the rise of, you know, like big designers on social media. So, you know, like I just started connecting dots. I was like, these people could bring people together, and I could, you know, kind of be the conduit to make that happen. And yeah, that was really kind of the impetus behind it.
You know, some people would be like, maybe a newsletter. Maybe I'll go a little bigger and do like a web page. This guy goes straight for the
right for the conference. Yeah.
What were the early days of? Because I mean, obviously, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not like you were you weren't running events prior to this on a regular basis. I mean, maybe some music gigs, but not like full blown events. So, what were those early days like?
So like we you know, we weren't running events, and I say we because my wife and I are the founders of Crop, and she's just as instrumental as I am. She's just a lot more behind the scenes. She's the analytical side, the spreadsheets and the budget, and the no, Matt, you can't do this, like, which is great because I do need to be put in check. But you know, she and I did have some experience with events. I had experience with shows, of course, but we had some event experience from doing stuff throughout college, and the early days were like a lot of field notes filled with ideas. You know, like.
Cool.
Brainstorming over beers in the backyard and just kind of like putting it together and like reaching out to people weird ways, you know, like DMing, you know, like these big designers. Cause like our first year was super stacked. We had a hell of a lineup our first year. And yeah, like it was just it was like building the ship as we sailed it, basically.
Yeah. How did you possibly fund all this? Because I mean, again, early days. How do you find sponsors? You know, because again, who's going to sponsor an event that, or am I just that blind to this?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think any kind of like inaugural event probably comes with a bit of hesitation from people throwing sponsor dollars at it because it hasn't been road tested. You know, like what's my return of investment? You know, is probably what people ask themselves. It's what they still ask me. I'm like, I don't know. I can't guarantee you're gonna, you know, get all of this stuff, but you can support this thing. Yes. And like that's kind of the way I pitched it. You know, like the first year was predominantly ticket sales, and like that's kind of continued to be a trend for us because we don't attract big sponsorship dollars. I think if we probably had somebody that wasn't me trying to go after that stuff, like we might, and then we'd be able to provide more, you know, just more in general, because if you have more money to play with. But like that's never really been our thing. We've always wanted to be like an accessible place for designers. So like we price our tickets accordingly with that ethos that like we want it to be affordable. Not everybody can afford, you know, like a $600 ticket to something or a $1,500 ticket to something. So, you know, I don't think our tickets have ever broken like the $400 price barrier.
Wow. Nice.
And like that's by design because we want a younger designer to be able to come. We, you know, like somebody maybe just getting into freelance or just people that have limited resources. And while I love being able to do that, it does make it intense on the back end because we still fund our events through ticket sales. Like that's why like it's important for us to have every seat sold, not so we can say we sold out, just so we can pay for everything. So we can pay for the venue and the flights and the hotels and all of this stuff, you know. And we have had some sponsors that consistently support, and we're always super, super grateful for that. But like we've never cracked, you know, like, you know, having to have more wall space to put more sponsors on there. You know, right, we just haven't gotten there. But I'm very thankful for, you know, the folks that we do have that believe in what we're doing and have been pretty evergreen throughout the history.
So how is it evolved over the past 10 years? Because, or not even the past 10 years, longer, because I think there was 1 year or two during COVID that you guys did not. Is that correct?
So we just celebrated our 10th event this past April. And we used to just have one a year. It would be in the spring. And then we started doing 2 a year. So we do one in the spring and one in the fall. So it's actually been just shy of 10 years, but it's been 10 events because we, like psychopaths used to do 2 a year. Oh. and just doing one is already a kind of a beast. But doing a smaller one kind of later on in the year, that helps us maintain interest.
Yes.
Honestly, it helped us connect to different crowds, because the second one we would do in like a satellite city. So we'd go to we did one in Portland, San Diego, Austin, which is where we're headquartered now. Headquartered being just where we do it. But yeah, so yeah, 10 events and
so how has it
9 years.
evolved after this? Because I mean, again, that's still a long time in our space.
There's only so much you can do in the space, honestly. So for us, it's about keeping our lineup fresh, keeping our programming fresh, having different activities outside of conference mode or workshop mode. So like we've never, just like I've never wanted to stagnate in design, like I don't want to stagnate in the event space. So it's really about trying to get people excited every new event, and we mostly do that through a pretty carefully curated lineup, and just very like thoughtfully and intentionally crafted parties and activations outside. We just want to keep people interested. We want people to be getting on the plane the last day and be like, holy shit, like I can't wait to come back.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily looking to evolve year after year, but your key to stagnation is to leave such an experience that people talk about it, look forward to it for the experience. Granted, the industry, you're like you said, it's true. I mean, it's not like next year robots are going to be doing what we do. Yeah. It's still, design is still pretty much the same, just different ways of doing it. But you're creating awesome experiences that people talk about and return to year after year.
Absolutely. I mean, like that's kind of it. And I think that's probably like a good benchmark to want to achieve for like any event. But I do think, and I admit I'm very close to it, obviously, but I do think that there's something very special about Crop in the way that people receive our event. People will come up to us afterwards and just be like, I feel like I've finally found my people. And, like I feel like I belong here. And I think creating that place of belonging, that kind of like come as you are, like there's never like a theme to Crop. There's never an agenda. There's never us telling speakers what we want them to talk about. We just want real, raw, genuine experiences. And I think real people being in the crowd, that resonates with them. Yeah. Like we're not putting a gloss on things at all. Like, and we're very, we are a little rougher around the edges. And that was never by design, but we've leaned into it since we know that people appreciate that. So yeah.
Have you, not to mention any names, we're not naming names here. We do not name names. But have you ever had a guest or a speaker that you kind of regretted bringing because they were a little too high maintenance, a little too designer?
I've had one. I would say one, which I feel like is...
It's pretty good if it's only one.
Out of 10? Yeah.
Out of 10 events and, like 10 plus speakers per event, it's really not bad. And I don't think this particular person was, I don't think any of it was like necessarily like intentional, or it was just kind of like, that was a weird interaction or scenario or
that just was
response to this or that. But no, like we've been really fortunate in that, like the people that we do bring in to speak and lead workshops, they hang out and like they like it, and they're fans, and they don't get ushered back to their hotel afterwards or anything, like they get off stage key. And then you might go get a drink at the bar with them, or you'll see them at the after party, or, you'll sit down and eat with them. I love that accessibility to the talent, like, like, I mean, imagine going to a show and being able to, sit down with a guitar player. Like that's kind of like what cool. This is. it's what this is for designers, like whenever they get to hang out with,
totally.
like one of their heroes that just got off stage, like that's a cool space to be able to provide.
So just one question. Do you have like a wish list, like somebody who you'd love to have that has never really kind of panned out, or you've begged for, or anything like that?
I do, but I can't say who because because I'm actively working on it.
Okay.
We don't name names.
We don't name names. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. I could probably guess.
Wait. Who's more difficult then overall? Landing a new client or landing a good guest for your event?
Oh, I think it's far more difficult to land a good client. And no offense if any clients tune into this.
Also, no naming names.
But yeah, like there are people that I want to come and speak. We're pretty intentional about the way we curate our lineup and the variation that we want within the experiences that are being told to our crowd. Like I do think one thing I learned first year is that it's a creative conference, not a just graphic design conference. And our cool. First year was designer.
Right.
And like that was great, but creativity, the umbrella of it is so broad that like we've really kind of started widening that to where we bring musicians or muralists or photographers into the mix, and that's kind of something that I want to continue to evolve as well.
So you've got this show, you're constantly growing the show, finding new clients, trying to balance ticket sales with events and this and that. And granted, you have a superpower, aka your wife, helping you through this. But then you've also got a design business. You also have a full-time job. You're growing that side. How are you handling? Like, how are you juggling, handling, and you have a family? So like there's a whole bunch of stuff here.
And a band too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
Do you also have a primetime cartoon coming out in the fall? Like,
are there two of you?
Yeah. I wish sometimes. Yeah, the balance aspect of all of that is really difficult at times. Like I'd like to say I've figured out a secret, but I don't think there's any one answer for anyone. But for me, it's been being okay to slow down, knowing when to slow down. Whenever I was just full time on my own, it was just go, pedal to the metal all the time. And that was not sustainable. It was great. I got a lot of experience. I worked on a lot of amazing projects and met a lot of amazing people, but it was making me miss out on so many other aspects of my life. And for what? To have some shit to post on Instagram and get some get some adoration from some strangers and maybe miss out on real people and real experiences. And for me, like that was like a weird, crucial kind of like perspective turning point to where, I was like, I need to slow down. I want to be more intentional with my time because it's finite. It made sense for me to do something a bit more structured. And, it's weird that the paradigm for success as a designer is go out on your own, write a book, speak at a conference, blah, blah, blah. Like it's this weird linear path that somehow has been carved and a lot of people fall into. But I don't think it's linear, like I did the agency thing, go out on your own, do that. And it felt weird to circle back and be like, you know what, I'm going to get a job. Like it felt like, did I fail? Because while everybody else is trying to do this, I'm trying to get out of it. So it was a bit of a mind fuck in that, like, I was like, man, like, am I, like, what am I doing? Like, is this the wrong move? And honestly, it's probably the best decision I've ever made. I truly love my full-time job and the people that I get to work with. And like, that's pivoted me into a whole new area of design that I've never really explored. So old dog, new trick. And what that's allowed for outside of that is for me to be more selective with the freelance projects that I do take on under StayGray Ponyboy. So, it's not saying yes to everything. It's only saying yes to the things that I really want to do.
Right.
And that's a huge difference. Because then, like, you're not just clocking out of one job and clocking into the other, but yeah, crop has always been done in I call it the in-betweens. It just happens in between everything. Like if my wife and I happen to sit down for lunch together, like we'll probably have a notebook and we'll probably be, you know, jotting ideas down, or like if we go out to a coffee shop or a bar or something, like we have a notebook with us, and we're constantly kind of ideating on things, and of course as we get closer to like it's a bit more involved, and like a bit later nights, and like getting stuff tidied up, and yeah, so there's no like set office hours for crops. Like we're gonna have a crop day,
Yeah.
like it really just happens, like through group texts and notebooks, and I should probably, 10 events in, I should probably have a more efficient system. But
hey, it's working for you.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah.
It's working. So it's just, being more cognizant of my time and how I want to spend it and where I want to allot,
Well, it seems like, one thing you've got, whether it's through experience or years of doing this, but you're very self-aware of yourself, of what you're going for, your feelings. You're able to pump the brakes if you're starting to feel like you're at that burnout store and you're seeing it. So I think that's a huge part of obviously avoiding any of the whole burnout, the stress, the craziness that you're going through. But your comment about failure, is it a failure? You were feeling like it could have been. Are you feeling by going back? I mean, I think if anything, that was a huge win for you, because again, everybody, like you said, it's not linear, and you're right. Everybody always thinks the process is freelance or job, and then freelance, and then superstar and book and blah 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 blah. But I mean, what people are forgetting is that we are creatives for a living. We are getting paid. So your happiness is above everything else. I know some of those guys, they are stressed as hell. They're not even enjoying it anymore. They've got a publicist, they've got a manager. They're basically, they're borderline, fake, which is horrible. And not just our space, but a lot of that space where, you just said you're loving the people you're working with, you're loving the projects, you're learning something new. That's what this is about. Everything else, unfortunately, is just noise. So good on you, buddy. That's that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I completely agree. Yeah.
So, you're awesome. So you're a musician, right? Like I first saw you perform, obviously, this year. And if I'm not mistaken, your band some of them are graphic designers, all of them, or are you just the only one? Because I swear that first song was about graphic design.
Right where right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's worked its way into the songwriting or not. But you are correct that that 3 out of the 4 of us are designers. So me, obviously, and then our guitar player, who's been one of my best friends for like 20 years. He's also a designer. And then our drummer is a screen printer and a designer. So like we keep working on our basis to be like, hey man, why don't you download Creative Cloud? It's like a gateway drug or something.
So how does that play into the overall bigger creative picture?
For me, man, honestly, it's just it's such a good different outlet. Playing music, like it sounds so cheesy, but like playing music for me is really therapeutic in that like it lets me take my mind off of everything else. 9 times out of 10, if you see me and I'm eating dinner or I'm at a grocery store or whatever, my brain is working overtime. Like I'm thinking of all the shit I need to do. Like I'm worrying about this or that. Like I said earlier, like I'm a bit of a high stress person, and music helps de-escalate that, because whenever we're playing music, it's the only time that like I'm not thinking about all that other stuff. Like my brain is turned off, like I'm thinking about what's happening in the moment. And it's also kind of like helped me try to take that mindset of being more in the moment and just like apply it to going grocery shopping, you know, like just not being like a, you know, like thinking all the time. And also like it's just a fun way to create, you know, without pixels. Like I spend so much time looking at these screens. It's nice to have a different creative outlet. Yeah.
That's actually really cool. Okay. So, creative as a trade, as your line of work, or being a creative person, which do you feel has more advantage in being a designer?
I think it depends on what your goals are. You know, like if you're wanting to be fulfilled creatively, I think that being a creative person is probably, you know, better. I think if you're looking for a career and advancement, and I think if your goal is success, you know, like maybe the former is better. But yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think I have like like that's a very diplomatic fence riding answer. I understand.
It's right, very liberal of you.
Yeah. but you know, like I honestly don't know. You know, like I feel like I've lived both of them, and I'm not sure. I think they've kind of intertwined at this point for me, you know, just become mutated, you know, whatever the hell it is now.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you a part B to this then. Which would you rather pass on to the next generation? Be it your kids, your nieces and nephews, other kids? Would you rather pass on a strong sense of work ethic by being a creative, or a strong sense of creativity?
I think there's value in work ethic, but I think there's a lack of creativity these days. I would lean more for creativity, which goes back to, you know, like we want to be odd again, you know, like, yeah.
It was fun to be that way. Yeah, you're right.
I would push for creativity, you know, like I love discovering, and like every now and then, you know, like I'll find somebody. It's not usually in the design space. Not to say there's not an amazing amount of talent out there, but I'm inundated with it and just oversaturated with design.
Of course.
You know, like I find more awe in finding a painter or like a motion artist or like somebody that's just doing something really different. And I would love for creativity to be nurtured more, and, you know, see if we can get back to dropping jaws.
What do you think there's been a lack of?
I think, like we said, like that just oversaturation, you know, like the homogenization of just like constant design stuff everywhere all the time, you know,
all this
like,
design pollution.
Yeah, design
pollution. And it's not bad. Like I don't mean to be like a dick about it, like in any way, like whatsoever. It's just, you know, like it's kind of like you look at some stuff and you're like, oh yeah, this looks and feels like this, you know, like, you know, like there's just so much of it, you know, like I have to put my phone down a lot of times and just be like, you know what, like I set up like little iOS like time limits, like, okay, like you've spent this much time, and yeah, so I just think it's the graphic design has become sexy. It has. For sure. We talked about it not being sexy 20 years ago, but like it's become a thing to where people can achieve a certain degree of, and I hate thinking along this line, but a certain degree of celebrity with it, you know? So I think people see that as a path to like being seen and being known. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's your goal and like, that's your ambition, you know, but I think that's why we see so much design celebrity these days, because it's just people like being seen. Like, you know, you like being recognized for your work or what you bring, and there's just a lot of that. So I think it's become a very popular career, and I think it's a great career. Like I don't really believe in gatekeeping. I just want more creativity in this field. You know.
So you when you came up in this space, just similar to us. Graphic designer was almost like I don't want to say it was a catch-all, because we did it all. We did print, we did digital, you know, 25 years ago, we did trade show booths, we did experience design, we did UX design. And then it became very segmented, UXers. And then it became, you know, CXers, you know, people who only worked on, you know, user interfaces. And then graphic design, everybody became really siloed. Do you think that that's the way it's going to stay in the future? Or do you think it possibly could come back to just being an overall designer?
I think there's that saying, you know, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
And like that's how I felt for a really long time whenever I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Yes, I could lay out a magazine in InDesign. I could also ship signage for, like a business that's opening. I could do a logo. I could do a very terrible Flash site. But like I don't know that I was doing any of them well. And like that, I don't think it's not to say that there aren't people out there that can do it all and are really good at all of it. I know some people like that and very jealous of that. But I do think there's something about being, like a powerhouse in your silo.
Mm-hmm.
I think like a working knowledge of all that other stuff is great great tools to have like in your tool belt. It's tough to get really good at one thing if you're trying to, grasp everything.
Do everything.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. What do you think the future of design is going to be, or our industry?
I think digital experiences are probably the way of the future. Like they're pretty much predominantly what we experience now. Like we live so much on our phones, we live so much on our computers, our tablets. I was just reading that I can't remember the statistic, but a very large percentage of logos, like will never be printed. Like they'll just
RGB.
exist. Yeah. So
RGB. Whoa,
yeah, I read that article too. That's interesting. Yes,
it is wild. Like I don't know if it was Logo Lounge or what. It was something recent, and I was just kind of like gobsmacked by like that number. I was like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of great because then I don't have to, write a bunch of a bunch of brand standards for print stuff that'll never get printed. But yeah, like I think leaning into the digital world is kind of like where I see most of like my future in design. I do a lot of UX and UI now, and applying brand there and how to push the envelope to make those experiences not so run of the mill. How can digital experiences stand out? Because I mean, we all know websites that we like. It's like, ooh, like this is nice, or like apps that we like. We're spending more and more time on these devices, and I think that's where a lot of focus is going and shifting.
Yeah. Okay. The nice thing about what you said is, your future is in digital design. How long of a future in design do you plan to have, Matt?
I don't know. As long as the design world will have me. I don't know. As long as I don't, get replaced by any young hotshot AI models. You thought I was going to say designers, huh?
Yeah. He said the word. Well, what about crop? Like, I mean, obviously, there's still a future for crop.
No, I think there's still a future for crop. I have periods of burnout with crop and being a designer, but they ebb and flow, and I think everybody has that in their jobs. I'm very fortunate to still like being a designer, and I think the future of it for me is that perseverance. Like I'm not ready to stop anytime soon. I'm also not financially able to stop.
That's a good motivator.
If that were part of the equation, then who knows? But yeah, no, like I'm always excited to just keep learning stuff. Honestly,
cool.
Learning new stuff is rad. Keeps you interested, keeps it fresh. And the future of crop is, I just want to keep providing good experiences for people, and like providing that playground and resource. It's getting tougher and tougher to like build out the lineups. Like sometimes you want so much. So I've just got to learn to learn to make sure it stays true to its roots and its brand. Yeah.
So if there's one piece of advice that you could give your younger self, Matt, 20 years ago, what would it be?
Invest in Bitcoin.
Yes, there. Twist.
Yeah.
He's not wrong.
Everything else, the path was perfect, right?
Yeah. No, I think for me, it would also be the advice I would give myself now, 20 years from now, is just don't stress over things as much. Like what you fear happening is so unlikely, I don't know, like the fear itself is greater than the likelihood of it happening. And
Agreed.
I think just worry less, enjoy more. Like everything will work out the way it's supposed to, kind of thing. That sounds very Hallmarky, but
it sounds more Yoda than it. You're the Yoda of graphic design.
I like that way better.
Yeah,
than, yeah.
Oh, dude. Okay, this is crazy because we can keep going.
Yeah,
there's no question. But let's be sensitive to our first one. This way, you might make you come back and have a second one. Yeah. However, we finish every interview with a rapid fire list of questions, which I did not share with you.
Okay.
So yeah. So you've got 2 minutes to answer these questions. There's no right or wrong, but this gives us an idea of the person behind the designer.
All right.
Good?
Are you ready, Matt?
Are you ready?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
Paper or tablet?
Tablet.
Favorite music genre or band?
Alternative. I'm a 90s kid.
Oh.
Alternative rock. Yep.
Favorite color?
Gray.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Favorite childhood cartoon?
I loved the X-Men cartoon whenever I was a kid.
All right, that's good. That's respectable.
Okay. Yep.
Favorite collectible?
Favorite vinyl.
Sweet.
Unfortunately.
Favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero. I'd go Spider-Man.
Nice. Mouse or stylus?
What's that?
Mouse or stylus?
Oh, trackpad.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite design trend right now?
I know the trends that aren't my favorite. Let's see. What's my favorite trend right now?
Worst design trend then right now.
Worst design trend. Designers feeling the need to be performers. That's legit.
It's a trend.
That's deep.
But yeah, I don't know if there's a trend that I love at the moment. Yeah.
Cool. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Barbecue or smoker?
Barbecue.
Puppies or kittens?
Puppies.
Pirates or ninjas?
Pirates.
Who would win in an arm wrestle? You or Big Mike?
Big Mike. Yeah. Hands down. Yeah.
Okay. How about this? Here's a part B. Big Mike or your buddy Dan Jansen?
Oh, come on. Dan's a...
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
Dan's like an action figure, man. No,
he's like an action figure.
That's not
really
fair.
Is.
Yeah,
it really is. Favorite graphic designer, past or present?
That is a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. To be honest, I truly like that's too tough to answer. That's a poor excuse, but like I don't know.
I know it's a lot to unpack on that one.
Too many to list. Yeah.
What about favorite artist ever?
Favorite artist? Do they have to be a visual artist?
No, not at all.
I think I'd go Kurt Cobain.
Oh,
nice.
Interesting. Wow, that's a little controversial.
Mm-hmm.
But being a 90s guy, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's...
Well, I think from a standpoint of creativity in music and like his artwork as well, and just writing in general, like I feel like there's a bit of a triple threat there, and creativity, and probably that left a mark on me like at an impressionable age. So
yeah. Okay, which is closer to your heart, RGB or CMYK?
If you'd asked me 5 years ago, it'd be CMYK. Probably RGB these days.
Yeah. Serif or non-serif?
Non-serif.
Favorite font right now?
Sweet Sans bold or heavy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Illustrator, Photoshop?
Illustrator.
Rotring mechanical pencil or a Micron pen?
Micron pen for sure.
True or false? AI will replace designers?
False.
Okay. Best guitar or bassline riff?
The best bass line for me is a song called In the Meantime by a band called Space Hog. Spotify bass line is killer. And fun fact, the singer is also the bass player. So whenever you listen to that bass line, remember that he's singing over it as well. A completely different melody. It's top tier for sure.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Pop music, honestly.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
So opposite of your favorite music choice. Okay.
Well, it's just
Well, it's a
interesting
guilty
from
pleasure.
it's interesting from a songwriting perspective, and like kind of like analyzing like, why does this work? Like, why does this appeal to so many people?
Right.
You know, like, so like I
Ah.
think it's more of like a dissection kind of thing.
I like that. Actually, brilliant. Yeah, if we can ever figure out what Taylor Swift is doing, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that we can apply
No
that to
shit.
graphic
Yeah.
design and woo.
Yes,
All right.
please.
Riffs.
Superpower of choice.
Flights.
Best video game console ever.
Super Nintendo.
Best guitar brand ever.
I'm a Fender person, so I'd probably go Fender.
Fender.
And one thing that always makes you angry.
Traffic.
So you did the 2-minute rapid fire questions in a nice, swift 5 minutes and 32 seconds. So I think that's a new record.
Things move slower down in Texas, don't they? That was good. There's a lot of thoughtful stuff in there, so we can't fault you for that.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wait. Before we go, I have to ask, okay, where did the name StayGray Ponyboy come from?
You're going to be so disappointed. It's not it's not particularly interesting or groundbreaking. So we like me and my wife and I, like we started a business called StayGray, which was essentially like my design studio name and kind of like what Crop was originally under. But StayGray.com was not available. So just started thinking of like brands that have like taglines, and gray being my favorite color. It's also a family name. I thought of like that line from that book. I was almost said movie first. I'm sure book people would
Cringe.
call me out. But from the Outsiders, the Stay Gold Ponyboy line, I was like, what about StayGray Ponyboy? As the online outlet. And the URL was available, basically. Too long, didn't read.
Yeah.
The URL was available, and I was able to have it, be matchy with social handles. Like I always hate whenever a client can't get the same, social handles or URL, and like it's all these different things. So I've leaned into it. I've wanted to get away from it, honestly, but I think there's a bit of equity there. So like,
because I don't think you can anymore. Because I see that and I'm like, oh, it's Matt.
Yeah.
Very cool, dude. So where can people find out more information about Crop and about you?
I wish I could say we're on all of the socials, but I think the most up-to-date information anybody can find for Crop is on Instagram at CropCon's. We let our site hibernate during the hiatus, and then we pick it back up once it's time to start promoting the next event. So Instagram at CropCon's, and same for me, Instagram at StayGray Ponyboy. You'll see up-to-date work, spicy takes on certain things, musical stuff. Like I've kind of decided to let that be my little outlet. That's far easier to update than a website, but I do have a new website coming soon.
Yes, saw that.
Yeah, saw that.
All right, very cool, dude. I'm glad we did this. I was worried for a little bit, but I'm glad we connected. And this has been exactly what I thought.
What were you worried about? Like,
well, I mean, again, I'm like, dude, are you going to reply or what? What happened? You ghosted me for a bit, but I'm very perseverance. I kind of make sure.
He's a junkyard dog, man. He wouldn't let you go.
No, I'm so glad you did. Like my communication this summer, like I think it's just been I've been pulled apart this summer just by like trips and this and that. So my communication has been dreadful, and I do apologize.
No worries. You're here, and that's all that matters, brother.
Thank you.
Cool, man.
Thanks for having me off. This is awesome.
Not a problem. All right, everybody. So, I mean, again, if I could give any advice, make sure you check out CropCon. Make sure you check out Matt, of course. And, come the beginning of the year when you're looking for hot design conferences to check out, this is one that is on our list to hit up, which I'm sure you'll be happy to hear. And yeah, absolutely. Come see Matt. Come see the amazing lineup. Come check out the history of it all. Because, I mean, there's no question. This isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Nope.
Yeah, it's only getting better.
Yes.
Cool, my man.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. My name is Massimo.
My name is Sean.
And you are
Matt.
Matt, stay creative
and stay angry.
Peace.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, no, this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.